Lights of the downtown Green Bay Main Street Bridge turning red tonight for Red Dress Day. The annual event meant to mourn the loss of Native Americans due to violence, as well as to bring awareness to the disproportionate number of missing and murdered Indigenous persons both in our area and across the country. Good evening. Thanks for joining us tonight. Advocacy for Missing and Murdered Indigenous Persons Day spreading throughout the state today. Supporters and survivors honoring those who have passed and who have yet to be found. In the First Alert Update, Drew Best joins us now live in the studio with how the Indigenous community is raising awareness. Drew.
Bill, according to the Department of Justice, Native American women face murder rates that are 10 times higher than the national average. People from across the state who have been impacted, making sure their calls for action are seen and heard on Red Dress Day. The Kaukauna Public Library among those raising awareness, creating a book display with stories of Native American tribes, as well as Indigenous learning kits to support teachers on these topics. Dozens more supporters meeting at the state capitol as well this afternoon, most wearing red as they honored victims and shared hopes for stronger protections in state legislature. Advocates throughout Wisconsin, sharing the need to draw more people's attention to the topic.
It's important because we need to come together and educate and support Indigenous communities. We want to make sure that these voices are heard.
We want the country to know that our children matter to us and our communities are hurting, and we need to be recognized so that we can bring healing.
Advocacy will continue on Saturday in the Oneida Nation, where more than 100 community members are expected to join in Oneida's annual Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women Walk, which will start at the Civic Center at 11 a.m. Bill?